Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want, and or my guests what they want to talk about. And this is a special edition of the Wasteland Spotlight, which started this segment with my brother on highlighting film noir films, and now I'm going to be doing some highlighting of A24 horror films with my friend and horror aficionado, Diana. Diana, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Always love chatting movies with you, and it's been a while. So, tis the
Yeah.
season around Halloween as we record this. It's October and things are spoopy and time to get uncomfortably unnerved by some horror movies because honestly, that's the brand A24 horror goes for, to be perfectly frank.
Love
So,
that.
not the pulpy slasher type of, say, like Blumhouse or, just a very specific brand of everything's like haunted shit, like in the Conjuring universe. Nope, this is basically all kinds of things, but if it does make you feel really uncomfortable and unnerved, it's probably A24. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to focus on about four films here over the course of from 2018 until this year, 2023, because they're still cranking them out from all around the world. We're going to be talking about Hereditary, Midsommar, X, and Talk to Me. So let's get started with 2018's Hereditary from writer director Ari Aster, who I feel like has a very specific brand of I'm going to mess you up today. And this is starring Toni Collette, uh, Gabriel Byrne, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, as basically two-thirds of a really intense family drama, and then whatever the hell the third act is when you're not emotionally prepared for it. But Diana, what are some of your general thoughts about Hereditary?
Um, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but like I love it. I know people are very polarized. It's polarizing rather, because I talk to some people and they're like, "Oh my God, why are you watching that again? That movie messed me up," as you said. Or like I sent a meme. They come out with the best memes for this movie, which is terrible and says that I'm going to hell. But like I saw this meme the other day and it was wait, can we spoil here or no? I don't know.
Sure. Honestly,
Okay.
well, it's funny because on the other spotlights, like those movies are a lot older generally, but
Yeah.
hey, you know what? We're giving you a good warning, so be
Okay.
prepared.
So
So,
this part's gonna be a spoiler, so jump ahead if you need to. But I saw a meme and it was a poll and the little girl and it was like cute couples costume ID. That was so funny. Or like all of the Barbie memes where it's like Barbie in the car and it's got the sister in the back seat. Oh my God, I love a good dark meme. I know it says I'm a terrible person, but
oh no,
I
she's
love
gonna
this
run
movie.
into she's gonna run into the wall that Ken's made.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so funny. But yeah, no, I love this movie a lot. I what I love about Ari Aster, he's such a great storyteller. I know I've mentioned this in our previous chats. No detail goes unspared, and
Mm.
you could rewatch his movie and learn something new every single time. Like the limit does not exist with little Easter eggs or facts that you pick up from his movies. So I feel like Hereditary just does a really good job of that.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to watch Beau is Afraid 50 times to get like
I
every
still haven't
single.
seen that one.
Be prepared.
So it wasn't, I know we're not talking about it, but like I didn't go see it because I was like, well, this doesn't seem like my vibe of horror. I'll just wait to stream it. Like,
It's a vibe for sure.
okay.
I don't know, like it's I feel like it's one of those kinds of films that Ari Aster was standing off to the side cackling while making, and everybody else is, what the F is this doing?
Oh, good.
Um it's pretty darkly demented, but oddly funny. all the time. And
Okay.
I feel like if you pick up on that, it's supposed to be weird and funny, then you're a special kind of person. And it worked specifically for you. Not gonna lie, I sat there watching the movie. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he wants us to laugh at all of this, right? He wants us to laugh at all this.
I
Um,
mean, maybe it is up my alley considering I'm laughing about a girl getting her head chopped off by a pole. So,
hey, give it a try. But Hereditary is one of those kinds of films. Like, I know I said it to get a nice chuckle out of there, but like, this legitimately is two acts of
Mhm.
a very, very intense family drama to the point where like that scene at the dinner table is
Yeah.
scarier than a lot of horror movies, just
Yeah.
generally. And Toni Collette deserved an Oscar for this for Best Actress,
Took the
but
words right out of my mouth. The Academy hates horror. What are you doing?
and I feel like this is like the biggest one of recent memory of just like, no, we're just not going to acknowledge this, despite the fact that like she burned this shit down, like
She
with
was
at.
incredible. And
Mhm.
there this like the her character just had so many different emotions and she captured all of them. And oh my god, don't get me started. Like I could go on a rant for days and days about how she was screwed over by the Academy, but we
Yep.
don't have enough time. But like, if you're ever bored on a Friday night and you're like, I need something to do, just call me
Call
and I will to
Diana.
you about how she should have won an Oscar because she should have.
Just
We
like
love
call
you,
you
Tony.
up and just like, hey Diana, why didn't Toni Collette win an Oscar for Hereditary?
I'll be like, those mother effers. Like, let me get started on this one.
There's my Friday night plans right there. But she's incredible, and her dynamic with Alex Wolff, especially. And all I'm going to say is, I never want to hear somebody crying about a dead loved one ever again after I had to hear Toni Collette wail in the background of that particular scene. And then the third act happens, where I would like to say is your tank is on empty at that point, and you can't emotionally defend yourself anymore. And then Ari Aster's like, "Are you ready for the real fun?" And then you're just like, "No, we're along for the ride
I was
anyway."
ready. I was like,
And
bring it.
it's the his visual storytelling too is incredible. I remember sitting in the theater because I'm a big cinematography person. I'm always looking at the frame and how everything's shot. And I'm sitting there like, you know, crazy stuff happens. And this is the point where things are for real. Gonna be crazy. Rip Gabriel Byrne. Um, but Alex Wolff wakes up in his bed
Mm-hmm.
and then like swings to the side, and it's a very interesting side frame shot of his bedroom. And you're just like, is something in the corner of the room? Like in the top corner of the room? And then it changes shots, and then you find out what was in the top corner of the room, and you're just like, ah,
Yeah.
I'm good. And then it doesn't slow down from there. And then what you see is a mix of absolutely horrifyingly grotesque body horror,
Mm-hmm.
um, uncomfortable nudity,
Yeah.
and creepy cultist chants ripped right out of the ending of Rosemary's Baby. You're just like, well, hail Pyman.
Yeah.
And then you're just like,
I just gave an LA night. Yeah, that was weird. I was like, yeah.
so this film is incredible. This is legit. What I legitimately think this is one of A24's best films that they've put
Mm-hmm.
out, and just the incredible amount of detail, and it's shocking from like a narrative standpoint because you do not see where this movie's going, especially like you watch the trailer for this movie, which honestly, A24 trailers, especially for the horror movies, are so misleading because
Yeah.
no PR, like no advertising firm knows how to market any of these movies to anybody, which is why they get cine scores of like D's and F's from everybody. And you're just like, wow, creepy daughter girl's gonna be messing our shit up for 2 hours. And then it's like, just kidding. And but the thing is, like, there's just so much weight here from like grief and everything. And I'm just gonna say F Ann Dowd and her character. Because Ann Dowd's an amazing actress, but ooh, that
Yeah,
lady.
that was like a can of worms.
Yep, I'm just gonna leave that can of worms there. Everybody else can watch the movie and find out why I really hate her character.
Yeah.
But Diana, what else stands out about the film for you?
I love, and I know we're going to talk about Midsommar too, but I love how the colors of the movie and the overall like vibe of it is very dark. But you get to Midsommar and it's all bright, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily a happy movie either. So that just goes to show like Ari Aster and all, the cinematography team, their talent of capturing a mood but like making it look completely different. I love that. I don't know, I just feel like it's a very iconic movie too in the horror genre. Like you look at a treehouse, you look at like the paper crown, you already know you're talking about Hereditary.
Yep.
I love that. It's a captivating story. Like you said, it covers like a lot of themes. So it is an emotional roller coaster, but if you're a sicko like me, you are on the ride and you want to ride it again multiple times.
Absolutely. So, and I'll admit, I didn't get a chance to rewatch any of these over this past weekend, but I do look forward to rewatching these A24 films because, like, they're just so incredible and so well done. It's interesting because I feel like two directors right now are having kind of parallel careers from A24. One of them's no longer with A24, but if I were to guess, is probably coming back to A24 at some point, which is Robert Eggers. And then Ari Aster, since they both had their like 3 big films already, 2 of them were like really iconic horror films for A24, and they both kind of went a little bigger with their next film, except one of theirs was like $90 million and didn't make money because who thought the Northman was going to make $90 million? But I saw it and I loved it. But it's very interesting with what A24 does for allowing these creators to just work and cook. And you got, we'll talk about Ty West and we'll talk about the Filippo brothers, but we still have some Ari Aster to go.
Yeah.
So, Midsommar. So this was his follow-up to Hereditary in 2019. And like you alluded to, Diana, this is the most uncomfortable, bright as day horror movie you're going to find. Because yes, almost this whole entire film is uncomfortably bright in the middle of daylight. Because yes, it is a midsummer festival in Northern Europe where, they don't really have darkness a whole lot at that time of year. And we have Danny, played by Florence Pugh. So hot right now, Florence Pugh. Who's like in everything. Playing this young woman who goes through a traumatic experience, which we'll talk about in a minute. And her shit-ass boyfriend, Christian, played by Jack Rayner.
Whoa.
Boo.
Whoa.
And his friends go on to a trip so one of them could do research for this small, very isolated Swedish village. And boy, do they find out what this little village is really about. I think they found out a little bit too much about what this village is about. But you have William Jackson Harper, Will Poulter. God, Will Poulter in this movie too.
Yeah.
the fact that they were able to get two of the most punchable characters in like modern cinema into the same movie between Christian and Mark,
Yeah.
like Jack Rayner and Will Poulter, I want to punch their heads together,
That would
honestly.
be a great like review, like quote to put on a newspaper, like about her not already Midsommar. Like the fact that they got two of the most punchable actors.
Hey, if you're still looking for pull quotes for a future physical media release, let me know.
There you
I'll be
go.
more than
That's a
happy to
solid
give.
one.
I'd be more than happy to give my permission for you to use it out there, A24. Um, but so let's just pull this band-aid off. The beginning of this movie's effed up.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting in the theater, you expect this from the trailers, you expect this movie to be like super bright and uncomfortably weird and
Yeah.
culty and folk horror-y. Like this is basically the Wicker Man except in Sweden. Um, but damn you, Ari Aster, and what you did to me emotionally within 10 minutes of this movie starting.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's just say Danny's family comes to a very unfortunate end, which is what kind of like sends her through this very horrible spiral of grief and emotions. And also, Christian's a piece of shit. And
Oh.
um and I remember sitting in that theater and after the first 10 minutes just being like, there's 2 hours, 20 minutes more of this. It was just like, Ari Aster certainly knows how to push your buttons. And
Mm-hmm.
just to be forewarned, Diana, um, in Hereditary and Midsommar, it's to really put you into an emotionally devastated place. I think he's just having fun with you and Bo's afraid. So,
Interesting.
but right off the bat, this movie sets you up for a very emotional experience. And then, unfortunately, having to navigate a pretty toxic relationship, which, boy, this movie is all about toxic relationships. And also a bunch of backstabbing friendships. I would not trust Christian, Josh, or Mark to be my friends, to be honest.
So they
And
all
you're kind
suck.
of just like, y'all suck.
Yeah, they're the worst in the world.
And boy, do they have some fun things happen to them in this movie. But
Karma's a biatch.
well, Diana, what are some of your what are your general thoughts about Midsummer?
I love this movie. I also feel like you and I probably have different perspective, like the same overall idea of it, but it
Right.
probably hit you differently than it did me because I have been in Danny's shoes, knock on wood, not as far as the family grief goes, but as far as being into a toxic relationship goes. And, seeing the person you thought was one way who loved you, like turn out to be someone completely different. And they constantly gaslit her this whole film. That's happened to me. And just between the writing and then Florence Pugh's portrayal of that, it's very much like you in the audience like feel, especially if you've had those wounds happen to you, that gaslighting, you've gone through traumatic experience, it just rips it open again. But I won't spoil the ending, but I'm just going to say like her journey and her coming out of all this and where she ends up, it's so empowering. And I see it as an empowering movie where I see where I feel a man might not feel the same way. But I love everything this movie stands for as far as, women going through relationships and finding yourself in a breakup. And there just so happens to be an F ton of gruesome horror thrown into there. So what else can you love? Like
And it's just like it's such an interesting visual too by the end of this movie of
yeah.
it's a very interesting contrast in terms of where we find Danny and Christian in this scenario.
Yeah.
Um in some pretty grotesque ways, at least for Christian. And here's the thing: in a morbid, dark kind of horror way, does he deserve it? Yeah, kind of does. In terms of how this film sets up, because like generally it's just like, is the response to murder everybody in real life? No.
No,
But when
no.
you have this movie and the context that it's set it up, it's like this is like straight up old school kind of fairy tale of just
Mhm.
like you did bad things
Yeah.
are gonna happen to you. And boy, it's just those bad things are really, really grotesque and messed up in a Ari Aster movie.
It's a horror movie. Someone's got to die. Like, I can't think of a horror movie off the top of my head where everyone lives and walks off into the sunset happily ever after. It's just not a thing. So it's like, while we're here, it's a horror movie. Someone's got to go. Why not the asshole? So there you go.
And the amount of skin that other people wear in this movie would make
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs jealous. I feel like
Did you make a connection? Because I got this on my second rewatch, but of the Skin the Fool, did you make the Skin the Fool connection?
from specifically what?
In the beginning, when, oh my god, Will Poulter's character, which one? Mark, is he Mark, or
Mark.
he's Mark, right? Yeah. He asked like Pele, what are those kids playing? And they're like, oh, they're playing Skin the Fool. And then at the end, someone is a jester.
Well, that especially that tapestry too that popped up
Yeah.
earlier this.
The whole movie, literally, the whole movie is right in front of you the moment you hit play. And
Yep.
this is one of those movies. I mean, even though we're having a discussion right now and we're encouraging people to watch it, this is one of those movies where it is best to go in blind. I'm so happy I went in blind. I did see the trailer, but as you mentioned before, that doesn't tell you nothing. I was just
No.
like, all right, I know about the big May Queen dress, and there's gonna be a fire at some point, and really creepy stuff happens. And Florence Pugh, like, play, and then I walked out of that. Well, I walked out, I was in my apartment. So I stood up, if you will, a whole new woman after that movie, and just having so many questions. Like, I can rewatch it over and over again, and I am combing the Midsommar Reddit threads, finding more theories and Easter eggs, and even like there's Swedish lore in there mixed
Yeah.
in. There's a point where a woman places scissors under the baby's pillow, and I read up it has to do something with, like, they believed it would keep evil spirits away. It's like little things that you don't notice on your first watch,
Yeah.
but you will pick up on rewatches, and it's a treat every single time. And I know treat is a relative word in the
Yeah.
horror genre, but I found it to be a real treat.
Well, and it's like Edgar Wright level of foreshadowing, seeing as
Mm-hmm.
Edgar Wright foreshadows literally everything in every single one of his movies in like the
Yeah.
most, you're like, oh my God, when you think about it, it's like he said the whole entire plot of the movie in the first 10 minutes. And that's exactly like how this movie feels if you're paying attention and you just feel all those little details playing out. It's interesting that way. And it's just like, yep, some of those things turn out to be quite literal. So good for
Mm-hmm.
you. And there's certainly a lot of foreshadowing there. And just the way that this film deals with grief
Yeah.
too, and kind of puts a light, like a unbearably bright light, on just how different cultures deal with stuff. Because like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like probably Americans don't always have the best ways of handling
No.
things, and it's a
What
very
makes you say that? No, I'm kidding.
what, Diana?
What makes you say that? No, I'm kidding.
I don't know. I just have a very strong feeling. But like this small Swedish village looks at life and death in such a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty inspiring how Danny's able to connect and find this community while being stuck in a dynamic that gives her absolutely none of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most impactful dramatic elements of this film is her finally discovering that support to help her through all of this, because she certainly isn't getting it from Christian.
No.
And if you've ever been in a toxic relationship before, this movie certainly hits in a certain way. And what was funny was when I saw this, actually, no, when I saw Hereditary, I was in one. By the time I saw this next year, I was with Jess, my wife. So, but like it was less than a year removed from being in one. I'm just like, oh God, bad memories. And it's just like, and sometimes you could just like burn your way out of them. Just gonna leave that little nugget there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Jojo Casa House.
Oh, imagine watching Midsommar and then popping in Barbie.
Love
it. What a double feature.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to our next film here, which, speaking of letting creatives do their thing, Ty West.
Love him. What a gem.
Yep, this episode we're at least going to be talking about X. And boy, did this kind of come out of nowhere to really grab the attention of people and also deliver one of the most unexpected trilogies in film, where you're just like, did I want or ask for this? No. Am I intrigued and excited? Yeah. But we have X, which is a horror thriller focused in 1979 as a group of young filmmakers making an adult film are renting this place on this remote Texas farm, and you're just like,
This is gonna go over like a fart in church.
Yeah. Well, especially in this movie when certain people don't care too much about church.
Yeah.
But we have Mia Goth just roaring onto the scene. Yep.
Woo!
As both Maxine and Pearl.
Amazing.
And of course we have Jenna Ortega, because Jenna Ortega's in everything. Related and dark and spoopy. We have Brittany Snow, which
who I'm representing with the Bayou Burlesque tank.
There you go. And Kid Cudi.
Yeah, I know. That was wild. When I watched me, I'm like, is that Kid Cudi? I'm like, that is Kid Cudi. Good for him.
And they couldn't afford Matthew McConaughey, so they got a guy just like him.
Exactly. You cut corners where you need to.
This is an A24 budget. You can only afford so much.
Yeah.
But Diana, what are your general thoughts on X?
Oh my God, how long do you have? This is one of my favorite movies ever. It's a fun movie, and I know it's kind of like a weird thing to say. If you're outside of the horror community and you hear me say that it's fun, like you're like, what? But like real horror people get it. It's got a fun plot. It's not a whodunit, so it doesn't require too much thinking. Like you're not trying to actively solve while you're watching. You kind of can just sit back and soak it all in. But it just tells so many stories. You know, you get every character's backstory. You know, Mia Goth's character Maxine, she wants to be a star, and then Brittany Snow, she's kind of like the diva of it all with Bobby Joe, and it's fun like seeing them in contrast to Jenna Ortega's character Lorraine, who's like the quiet church mouse. But you know, the first, I want to say like 2/3 of the film, first half, 2/3 ish, is all about this adult film that they're going to make, and you're getting sucked into like, oh, you almost forget it's a horror movie like in the beginning, because you're like, oh, well, what about this film? Are they going to make it big? Like what's going to happen here? Is this person going to be in it? And then it just takes a turn for the worst, and we kind of see it coming along just a little bit because it's, as you mentioned Pearl before, you're always like, okay, the owners of the farm are a little off. Like, I'm gonna make a mental note of that, but I want to get back to this movie they're making. And then all of a sudden it just brings you on the drop of the roller coaster, and it's like, okay, not only are those old people a little off, they're like full-blown psychos, and it's fabulous. And Mia Goth playing both the role of Maxine and Pearl and those characters' relationships to one another. It's so fitting that she played both roles, and she did a hell of a job. Another person who should be nominated for an Oscar, and I can go on and on and on about that too,
Yep.
another Friday night. But it's just, there are so many themes in this movie about aging and appearances and morality and all that stuff, and it's just tied together in a very fun slasher, like chef's kiss.
Yep.
10 out of 10.
Yep, this is definitely that pulpier kind of slasher feel that you would expect more from like a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah.
Like it has an A24 craft to it, where
Yeah, because it still makes you think.
Yep.
It's not, you're not thinking hard while watching it, but when the movie's over, it like really makes you think, huh? Like it's one of those.
And it's, if you ever wanted a prequel so we could get the backstory of this old lady Pearl, conveniently, if you wait until the end of the movie after the credits, you get a trailer for a movie, Oh, Pearl, which I'm sure we'll talk about on another edition of this at some point. But yeah, Mia Goth is just amazing here, and what she's able to do with Maxine, who's our main character, who we connect with, and then with Pearl, this older woman, who basically, it's like straight out of Army of Darkness, like, you found me beautiful once. And then he's like, yeah, well, honey, you got real ugly.
Yeah.
Like, it's that whole entire idea of the vanity of it all, the attachment to looks, and the idea of adult film and sex work is all about that, because it is all about your body. And, well, somebody watched The Wrestler and Darren Aronofsky's movies, because Darren Aronofsky oddly really focuses on that kind of idea a lot in his films. And if he never made an A24 film, well, no, he made The Whale. There you go. So, but he just seems like every movie would have been worked for A24 from him. But the idea of just that focus on looks and your physical being and how that's threaded through this film really works. And this definitely gives off Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes.
Yeah.
In just the isolation out in the middle of Texas, and you're just like,
even the cinematography too, it's like super grindhouse in contrast to Pearl, which is the Wizard of Oz on crack. So
correct. Wasn't the Wizard of Oz already on crack?
Yeah, this is like next level crack. Like this is the weird stuff.
Well, this is like 2022 crack versus 1930s, I guess.
Yeah,
crack even existed. I don't know anything about drugs. But
oh my God.
This cast is so good, and Jenna Ortega gets to do Scream Queen level stuff in this, and then there's so many little layers to it, especially with like Maxine's family connection in terms of like the religion and like quote unquote decency of it, and the fact that she's starting an adult film, and it's funny. It's definitely funny at times, and boy, you're just sitting there watching this movie, and then when it starts. It all starts when one fateful evening, just trying to drive away, and it's just like, well, hey, I'm gonna get laid. Just kidding. And then it goes awry from there. So,
it escalates quickly.
It certainly does, and also pays off to have some reptilian friends.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Just throw that out there, or throw somebody out there. Just putting that there. But yeah, X is such a fun, grindhouse slasher kind of film, and it's a nice change of pace after two very very Ari Aster disturbing messed up movies.
Yeah.
But you know what? You ready to get a little Australian in here?
Oh yeah.
Which also, as I went to the movie theater to go watch Talk to Me, I knew like almost nothing about this movie, which I'm glad I didn't. But as I'm sitting there and everybody's talking in a really thick Australian accent in the first scene, I'm just like, is this film Australian? Or like, does this first scene take place in Australia? And yes, it is indeed Australian because we have the Filippo brothers who wrote, and directed this. I knew nothing about them coming into this, but apparently they're big YouTubers. And see, look, YouTubers can become A24 directors. So gives me
good
hope.
YouTubers. Let's put that out there. Good YouTubers.
Darn it.
Let's preface that.
Darn it. But the basic
well,
premise.
One of those. I'm talking about like I guess they don't do TikTok dancing on YouTube or do that. I'm talking about those like teeny influencer, like you're not a 24 director.
You could certainly do them on YouTube Shorts, which totally which totally is not just rip off of TikTok, so that Google can make that TikTok
original.
Can make that TikTok content. But this film focuses on a group of friends who stupid kids, stupid teenagers who have like this strange casted hand, which apparently if you grab onto and say the right words, you can see the dead. But just you wait. You have to make sure that you stop and do a couple of things before a certain amount of time, or things are going to get messed up. It would be a shame if that were to happen. And then we have a horror. Yeah. So, but Diana, what are your general thoughts on Talk to Me?
I loved this movie. This was another one that like, when the credits rolled, I was in the Reddit threads, like looking up everything I possibly could. Theories, connections, potential sequels, prequels, even like Easter eggs. Apparently, even the hand, like there's a lot of writing on there that's supposed to mean stuff, but I can't find a good screenshot of the hand, like all around, find anything worth noting. But that's what the Filippo brothers mentioned somewhere. My friends on the Boo Crew podcast got to interview them. So if you guys ever get a chance to listen to that, they just seem like two really fun-loving, like chill guys who just so happen to make a great movie. And you mentioned Australia before. I was cracking up because it takes place in Adelaide, South Australia. And they were telling my friends on the Boo Crew, they're like, yeah, Adelaide's kind of like the butt of all the jokes. Like there was an American town, like there really isn't an American town we can compare it to, but it's just like, oh yeah, that's Adelaide, like that creepy, like not creepy, but that weird, like black sheep of Australia, if you will. And like Rhea Ripley, one of my favorite wrestlers, is from Adelaide. So now I can't hear her come out and not think of this movie and not think of it being the butt of all the jokes. But anyway, it was cool. Apparently they mixed a lot of, I forgot what podcast I was listening to, but a lot of the music they used at the party was like authentic, like Australian, like indie, not indie because it's like rap, but like SoundCloud artists, if you will. There was a particular name for the genre. I don't remember what it was, but I thought that was really cool because it's giving you an authentic experience. And, you know, we have our house parties here in America. They happen all over the world, obviously. We see this in multiple parts of the movie, but it's cool to see how the Australians do it and to look at those cultural differences too. And in the meanwhile, all this crazy horror stuff is happening. And the movie ended up being something entirely different than what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like your typical, oh no, she holds on for the hand too long and then she starts killing everyone. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. And it ended up not being that. And I'm so happy it didn't, because what we got was so much better, so much less basic than that. And in fact, the Filippo brothers did say that before they took it to A24, they like pitched it to other big production companies, and they didn't mention which one obviously, but there was one that was like, okay, we can do this, but we want to do the whole cast of like American superstars, so all the actors will be like big American names, and they said they wanted them to change the ending to something more generic and like cliche. They didn't say what it was going to be, so I guess it's something we can use our imagination on, but they said no. And it's like, you know how much production companies are worth, so the fact that they turned that down because they wanted to stick to their guns and create something that was true to their heritage and culture and their story and their idea is amazing. And A24, it was just like a perfect fit.
Absolutely. And this movie costs like $5 million.
Yeah.
Like this is a small budget. Also, I love Rhea Ripley, and mommy is not the butt of anybody's jokes.
Exactly.
She is the focus of a lot of thirst traps and fantasies of a lot of people. And I'm going to specifically say people, not just men. But this film is so Australian. Like, it really, really has that kind of personality. But it is reassuring to know that teenagers do dumb shit everywhere. Because they certainly do here.
Those idiots.
I'm just sitting there like, as a 30-something-year-old, just being like, playing with fire, kids. Gonna get burnt. Yeah. Or, grotesquely disfigured. The body horror in this is uncomfortable. And the makeup and the practical effects when they like go in is just so good. And I would have sworn that was like CGI affected, but nope, it's all makeup to get those really uncomfortable expressions and discolorations and everything. But like, this movie legitimately terrified me. Like, there is so many moments in this where I'm just like, not okay with this. Like, the first time that she grabbed that hand and you see what's going on, I'm like, got me so bad. So bad. And Sophie Wilde is amazing in this.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I really fell for her character and like felt so bad. And you would think that the biggest, most impactful things are like the really scary moments, but like there's one particular moment that is the crux of everything that goes wrong in this movie. And it's deeply related to grief and loss and her specific loss. And you're just like, oh no. And you know from the second that a couple words are uttered and you're just like, no, because this is going to go real bad real fast. But on a lighter note, I do want to give a very special shout out to Miranda Otto, who is one of the funniest, most wonderful mothers in a movie I've watched in a while.
Yeah,
the way she engages with her kids is just fantastic. But if they changed the ending to this, if like a studio changed the ending to this, they're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
Because that ending got me hook, line, sinker.
Yeah.
And why would you want to change the ending, seeing as not only is it an incredible piece of like filmmaking and just a gut punch, but then it opens the door for so many more possibilities. Aren't they thinking about the franchise possibilities?
I know.
But those last couple moments, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't remember what I said. I was at my friend's house watching this a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if I was just like, yeah, what's the ending, or like, oh my God, but it gives you a reaction, and it takes a lot for a movie to do that, because we've seen so much of the same crap over and over. And I'm so glad they stuck to their guns and didn't do a typical ending, because this is what really makes you jump out of your seat or give that reaction, or it makes you feel things.
Absolutely. And it's just one of those things where this is such a creative idea. It comes from two very creative filmmakers, and they make so much great work out of very little money and a very good cast of young actors and the one veteran actor they could afford to get to join the movie, Miranda Otto of Lord of the Rings and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina fame. But it's just, this is such a nice little addition to A24, which I just saw a bunch of stuff coming out. Like A24 seems to be trying to go bigger, moving forward, and investing into some bigger projects and properties. I hope they don't lose their focus on, high quality cinema by doing that. But these A24 horror films are pretty great, and I'm sure we'll be back for more at some point. I know, especially because I know you'll definitely want to talk about Pearl and Maxine at some point.
Yes.
Whenever
Give us Maxine already. TikTok.
I'm assuming we'll probably get Maxine pretty early 2024, but
I don't know if they wrapped before the strike or not. I don't remember, but I know they were doing a lot of filming out here earlier this year before the strike happened.
But there you go. But Diana, thank you so much for coming on and talking some A24 horror movies with me.
Oh, thank you. I had fun, as always. It's my favorite topic.
Well, and I always enjoy having my friend who happens to be a horror queen to come on and talk about some horror. But would you like to tell everybody where they could find you?
Yeah, I mean, you could find me at Diana Gebbia on Instagram, Gebbia. Kind of going through some life stuff, not knowing what I want to do next. So I might be slow on the content, but whatever I decide, you'll be on the ride with me. So I mean, that's fun.
I'll be along for the ride. So there you go. But thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.